Hey, there we go.
What's up?
Okay, so this show, the recurring show, we're going to call it We're In It Together, right?
We're in it together. Okay, it's
Yeah. It's
backwards.
the best show of the Coriolis effect, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Because this is actually the best show on Instagram, right?
it is. People
Yeah.
don't.
So this is the second episode of We're In It Together. Last time we talked to my friend Anthony Rodriguez, who's a filmmaker and ethnobotanist. And today, for those tuning in, and I'm sure we'll have many viewers coming on, and we'll save this for later viewing, but we have my good friend, Aneta, who is the designer, small business owner, and mastermind behind Immortelle,
Hey.
which is a slow fashion label. I'll let you explain more about that as we get into it. But yeah, Aneta's a good friend of mine. She's been a supporter of our business since we started, and just a source of inspiration, constant brainstorming. And in addition to that, she's a plant lady, has a crazy amount of knowledge and intuition when it comes to the plant kingdom. And yeah, I'm really excited to chat with you because whenever we talk, I always learn something new. And I figure rather than us just podcasting to each other like we normally do, we might as well speak out loud in front of people, yeah, in case anyone else wants to glean any wisdom from us. So, yeah, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's an
My
honor.
pleasure.
How's it going over there? What are you drinking tonight?
So I have some herbs, some nettles, and just a blend of herbs, yeah.
Beauty.
Yeah, and so for starters, do you want to just tell us what Immortelle is?
Immortelle is, I like to call it a healthy clothing brand because,
A healthy clothing brand.
you know, I used to be very involved in the health and wellness world and just food in general. And I started to realize, you know, we're very conscious about the things that we put in our bodies, people like you and I, and probably the people that, you know, consume Together Hemp. And I kind of realized, what about the stuff that we put on our bodies? And, you know, my background was in fashion and I kind of stepped away for a long time. And I got into the wellness world, whatever. And then I kind of came full circle, came back to fashion. I was like, hey, I got to do it my way. What is the stuff that I can't find that I want to wear? And so I created Immortelle.
Okay, so you said you had some involvement in fashion before you started Immortelle. What kind of stuff were you doing?
So I went to, let's backtrack. When I was in about grade 6, I knew that I wanted to be a designer, like a fashion designer. I used to like sketch out little outfits for whatever musician I was into and, you know, dreaming up stuff that I would design for them for the music videos. And
Smash Mouth, right?
What?
For Smash Mouth, right?
Yeah, exactly. Smash Mouth.
Okay. Yeah, go on.
I vividly remember making, like, drawing an outfit out for Maya. Do you remember Maya?
Oh, yeah.
Superstar. Yeah. That's
Sweet.
who I was designing for in my imaginary world. And yeah, I don't know. And then in grade, what grade is it? I always go by grades because I never do like the age thing, but whatever grade it is that we do home ec in Ontario, I started to learn how to sew and I was so into it. And I just decided to teach myself the rest, whatever I didn't learn in that class. I remember making like little drawstring backpacks and I was just hooked and I wanted to learn more. And my parents were so supportive. They went out and got me a sewing machine and I would just lay fabric out on my floor in my bedroom and cut out shapes, which is so funny to think about now because I don't think I could even do that now. But somehow I kind of knew, I didn't even draw anything. I would just take scissors to fabric, freehand it all, and just kind of mash things together and hope that they worked. A lot of the times they didn't, but that's how I learned. And so I guess from a young age, I knew that I wanted to work in fashion. And I naturally went to fashion school. I went to Ryerson University, did the 4-year program. I got a bachelor's in design and went out into the workforce. And I worked at the Hudson Bay Company, and then I worked at Joe Fresh as a product developer, both places. And it was kind of just being in that fast fashion industry that really, I don't know, it was, I mean, the Rana Plaza collapse happened, and that happened in
In
Bangladesh.
Bangladesh. Yep.
Yeah, thousands of women lost their lives, children became orphans overnight. And that was like a really big turning point for me. It was, it like completely turned me off of the industry. And also, you know, when you get an inside view of a fast fashion brand, you get to see the waste, and just it just didn't feel right, and it didn't align with me, and I needed to get out of it for a while, and I didn't think I would go back to it. But this is when I went off and got into just health and wellness and food. And I really loved making food and creating dishes, because it was just another creative outlet for me, you know, whether I'm creating clothing or a dish, it's like kind of the same thing to me. It's very exciting and creative. It's just another way to, you know, express, but then I get to eat. And yeah, I did that for a while. And a lot of it had to do with also just figuring out personal health issues, you know, figuring out my hormones and things that I was challenged with, and like digestive issues. And obviously I wanted to deep dive into like the health world to just figure everything out. And then yeah, I just came back full circle. And I did a few other jobs. I worked for I helped start up a menswear company with Chris Goodenheck. Remember that? Did you remember that? I don't know if you knew them. Okay. So they were like a men's mindfulness brand, and I helped them design the collection.
That's cool.
Yeah. And my grad collection in school was menswear. I really have always loved menswear. And then I worked at Kit and Ace, and I was still kind of like, that's when I kind of got back into working in fashion. And then I was just like, I gotta do my own thing, you know? And I don't know if a lot of creative people are like that, but I have a hard time working for other people, like doing creative work for other people when it's not really like my company, or part of it isn't mine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And I know that a lot of people with ADD, ADHD don't do well with bosses. So I think that is part of it, part of the thing. But yeah, so I was super nerding out in like the health and wellness world, and naturally found hemp and realized how powerful of a plant it was in so many ways. And I think my first introduction to hemp clothing, like mainstream hemp clothing, was the Young Maven t-shirt.
Oh yeah, they're great. Yeah,
they're classic OG hemp company, you know?
absolutely.
And yeah, I love them.
Totally inspired by them too.
Yeah, I love their branding. I love their message. I love their whole slogan, everyone in a hemp tee, by whatever year they said that they wanted it. Yeah, and then I just started to explore hemp fabrics and try to find stuff here, which is very difficult as a Canadian. Yeah, and then that led to looking at natural dyes, because that is the most toxic part of the fashion industry, is dyeing textiles. That's where most of the chemicals come in. You know, processing fabric is one thing. You have to, you know, when you're processing even natural fibers like, say, cotton or hemp, some fibers are very chemical intensive processes. They require a lot of chemicals to go from, you know, the plant to fiber. So where was I going? So yeah, so then with the dyes are like the number one polluters. They where all the dye houses are, mostly overseas, you know,
okay,
all over Asia, Bangladesh, China, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the communities that live in those areas that do the fabric dyeing, they suffer the most from health issues and terrible.
That's interesting. So I wanted to ask because it seems like a lot of different things were happening as you were kind of having this awakening or this realization about your own personal health and the overall health of like the industry, and environmental concerns were starting to factor into it, and like social awareness with regards to stuff like the Rana Plaza disaster.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd mentioned that your label is a healthy clothing brand, and you started to tap into like the dyes being toxic, right? Or having toxic processing.
Yeah.
What kind of health effects are like associated with like mainstream conventional clothing processing?
Well, it was actually really cool to see recently, I think maybe 2 weeks ago on, I think it was on like CP24.
Mm-hmm.
They did a little story on, they focused on fast fashion, but this goes into luxury brands too, because they use a lot of synthetic things. But they ordered a bunch of stuff online, took it to a lab and tested it, and a lot of them had carcinogenic chemicals in them, like lead, cadmium, all kinds of stuff that you would never want to bring into your home or put on your body or sleep on or carry. And it's kind of just common practice, especially with synthetic stuff. Not so much in the natural fiber world. It still exists, but it's like really, it's really the worst in synthetic things, like polyester, nylon, synthetic leather, like vegan leathers, full of chemicals, unfortunately. I personally prefer to wear real leather, and I buy a lot of vintage leather, even though I don't eat animals and I eat a vegan diet, but I personally don't participate in the faux leather world because it's toxic. So it's like, and not only is it toxic for you to wear, it's toxic for it to be produced, and it's toxic for it to be disposed of. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess another part of that whole philosophy or paradigm shift is the like the superfluous consumption end of things, right? We have mountains and mountains of waste that is just sitting there in landfills or breaks down, like with synthetics, microplastics. You have the garbage patch in the Pacific, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I guess that, because I know you, that is part of the ethos of the brand as well, right? Unnecessary consumption is put off to the side, right?
Absolutely.
You don't want people to buy things that they don't need.
Exactly. And I'd really like people, or I'd like consumers to think about, when you're buying a new product, you never think about its end of life.
Yeah.
You don't think about like, what about in whatever how many years this product is going to serve its purpose? Like, what's going to happen when I'm done with it?
What will it become?
What's it going to become? Like, how will it break down? Is it going to leach into the rivers, the water supply, the ground, like whatever environment it gets disposed in? And not even half the time. Most of the time, we don't even know where it ends up if you throw it in the landfill.
Yeah. By the way, if anyone has questions, they can pop them down. Hit like and subscribe, guys. So, it's funny that you drew the connection between like what you eat and what you put on your body, because I've recently been thinking, I heard somebody discussing about how like maybe if you're lucky in your life, you'll need a doctor like, I don't know, 10 times in your life, or once a year for a checkup. You'll need a lawyer maybe, I don't know, a couple times in your life, a bookkeeper every tax season. But every day, at least once or twice, if not 3 times, depending on your diet, you need a farmer, right? And so you were drawing that connection between food and what you put into your body and what you put onto your body, but also, generally speaking, unless you're talking about synthetic textiles, which also come from the earth, from petroleum products.
Exactly.
Our food, our clothing is also coming from farmers, right?
Yeah, it's something we have to use every single day. You know, we
Yeah. Well,
are
I mean, it would be nice if I could just roll around naked, but since we still have taboos and cold weather to deal with,
yeah,
it doesn't seem like a reality too soon, for myself at least. Yeah.
exactly. And it's like, if you really think about it, your body is almost always constantly touching some other fiber of some sort, even when you're sleeping, especially when you're sleeping, actually. So it's like,
That's interesting.
think of the quality of your bedding and your mattress and whatever else is in there.
And how you take care of your clothes and your linens as well, what you use to wash them.
Exactly. So it's like, you know, if you're going to be picky about your food being organic and you're avoiding pesticides, the dirty dozen, and I understand that there are a lot of accessibility issues. I'm not blind to that, and I know that not a lot of people can go the healthiest route because they are restricted in certain ways. But when we do have choices, it's definitely something to think about. You know, it's like something that happens every single day. We're always in contact with the fiber, and we're always eating food. And yeah, they both come from farmers. Farmers not only feed cities, you know, those farmers feed city stickers.
Yeah, of course.
They also clothe cities.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, it's funny because thinking back, listening to you speak, I was doing an event, previous job.
Yeah.
I was doing photos for Ford Motors, right?
Oh, nice.
And yeah, and they had me wearing just like branded gear at the event, and
Yeah.
they had me wear some sort of zip up. It must have been polyester or something, and I took it off at the end of the night, and I was covered in hives, and I was
No.
like, okay, all right, we got to find like the cleanest, most natural clothes ever, because this is like, it was totally from the shirt, because the next day I put layers on underneath and no more rash, right? So
I bet you it's whatever they colored the fabric with that you reacted to most.
interesting.
Or here's another thing that people don't know is a lot of the fabrics, I mean, in fast fashion and a lot of the like really big companies, they treat their fabrics with certain chemicals before they get shipped out. So they get sprayed with things so that they don't get moldy or whatever in a shipping container while it sits for months on end.
There's so many parallels between like fashion and food that I'm starting to see.
They do that to fresh fruit and vegetables too. I just realized
fresh fruit and vegetables.
I didn't even expect that. Yeah.
So that's why we do this, right?
It's like
that's why we talk to each other.
Yeah, exactly. They do those little chemical chambers for the fruits and vegetables. They totally, yeah, before they ship it. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so you know what? I also remember hearing about like Patagonia was talking about there was people having respiratory issues in some of their retail locations, and they realized it was some like gassing coming off of their, I don't know if it was in a stock room or if it was a retail. This is all not to be taken as gospel, but I just remember something of this vein. And then they switched to organic cotton, and they cleaned up their manufacturing processes, and those issues started to resolve themselves. We'll have to look into that one.
No way. Is that from, did you write that in Let My People Go Surfing?
That could have been where I've read it, because my memory on that one is spotty, which seems out of character. But
it sounds like something they would do, and it sounds like something that they would own up to, you know? Like
absolutely.
They would admit to that, where a lot of other companies would not. A lot of big
companies. So you've hit on a couple reasons why you've switched to these kinds of textiles, and also to your production practices. Well, maybe we can go into that a little bit more in detail after, but you said you started to become aware of hemp when you were on your personal health nutrition journey. And it's funny because that's how we kind of second time we connected, you and I.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Talking about
grades. Yeah.
Pardon me?
After the Surf the Greats hangs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We started talking about like the plant paradox and our different food philosophies. Our awakening surrounding the whole world of what we eat.
That's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole other conversation, yeah. But why is it that hemp is something that you've turned to? You and I both know a lot of the benefits, but just for anyone listening, what is it about hemp as a textile or a crop in general?
Where do I begin?
Maybe in the ground, right?
You know what my favorite fact is? It's not even about the fiber as in textiles, but the fact that you can grow 1 acre of hemp to use as paper that replaces, what is it, 4 acres of trees, and it only I get the numbers wrong. I'm really bad at
Yeah,
remembering
it's okay.
facts,
Yeah,
but
I won't hold you to this. Yeah.
you can grow so much more hemp so much faster to use as paper, whereas trees, they take how long to grow until you can harvest them? That's worth harvesting. Is it like a decade?
It probably depends on the tree, but
Yeah, for like
more or
whatever they
less,
need for
yeah.
paper production.
Yeah, at least 5-10 years.
Yeah, and they take up way more space to do the
And
same
hemp,
job.
it could be a couple seasons, a season.
Yeah, if it's a good season.
Yeah.
Like, getting trees started is not easy. Um, and it takes hemp 1 acre. I'm pretty sure it's like 4 acres to trees to 1 acre of hemp or something. I can't remember, or maybe it's the years, but to grow the same amount to make paper. And that's one growing season. That could be just one spring, summer, and you have the same amount of paper. And not only does it take less time, less resources, less space, it also cleans up the soil. Like we know that that it cleans up heavy metals out of soil. It totally regenerates the soil and brings shitty dead soil back to life when you grow
One
hemp.
of, the, one of the things I like to talk about with people when we're talking hemp is about how at the Chernobyl disaster site, where there was the nuclear disaster,
Yeah.
they use hemp to remove contamination from the soil. Also,
Yeah.
in like the Puglia region of Italy,
Yeah.
like Toronto, Italy, there was a steel mill contamination, and that
Oh,
was like one of the big places where they were doing studies on hemp and phytoremediation, removing heavy metals from the soil, and that soil's been like fertile again. So
that's incredible.
yeah,
Yeah. So it's like we can by using more hemp, which has, what is it, 45,000 uses, they say,
if not more.
if
Yeah,
not more, that we
yeah.
know.
They say 45, 50,000 uses. Yep.
Yeah,
Food, fuel, fiber, medicine, feed.
it's so much. It's like it's insane. And whatever it's used for, it's basically the best at that category, you know? It's a really excellent fiber because it is so strong. And the reason why it's so strong is the longer a fiber is, like natural fiber, like say you get a little cotton ball, and the reason why Pima cotton is softer and
What's pina
stronger.
cotton?
Pima cotton is grown down south, and it's just like it's a variety of cotton because there's different
Okay.
genetics, right? So Pima cotton um, is grown down south, and it has longer fibers, and that's what makes it softer and stronger. So the longer the fiber, the stronger your textile, your rope, whatever is going to be. And hemp, as you know, can grow super tall. So they've cultivated the hemp, the type of hemp that they use for textiles. They try to grow them as long and tall as possible, which is different than the food one because they want to breed it for more seeds and more, the stuff that you guys need.
I was hanging with some of our farmers, and we had some of that hemp growing, and they're playing with their own kind of DIY decorticating machine. And
Oh,
the
no
issue
way.
the issue was that the machine kept jamming and lighting on fire because
Yep.
the fibers were so tough that they would just get wound up and stuck in
That
this machine.
that's the hardest thing about doing it for textiles, growing it for textiles, is a lot of the machines, even the like heavy duty industrial machines, have a hard time harvesting the plant and then, yeah, like cording it, which is basically you take. So the way that it works is you grow the plant. They're really long stalks, and that's what makes them really, really strong. Is
Hmm.
the fibers can be super long, and that makes it the best rope. It's actually stronger than the tensile strength of hemp is stronger than certain metals. I forget which ones it is, but
Interesting.
very interesting. It's such a powerful plant. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, so the way that it turns into fiber is
Yeah.
you grow it, and then when it's ready for harvesting, you can ret the fiber you ret the plant. So the retting process is basically you let nature decompose the outer husk, and the inner fibers remain. So back home where I'm from Moldova, my grandmother and my mom, it's actually in my lineage, everybody used to grow hemp back home because it was such a valuable resource for textiles, and a lot of my ancestors used it as a textile, and they're amazing at textiles, by the way, amazing weavers and rug weavers, all kinds of stuff. But
the Moldovans and Romanians, right?
Yeah. So, and I didn't know this. I actually didn't know how deeply it ran in my heritage, hemp. I had no idea. But when I started talking about it and like, you know,
it has deep roots. Hemp has deep roots.
It does. It's got really deep tap roots, and that's why it sequesters all these. Yeah. So what they did back then is they would harvest the stalks out of their garden, and they would go put it in the river and put a bunch of rocks on it, and they would let it rot and break down. So that's the retting process. So that would easily get the outer husks and things off of the stalk, so that you could get to the middle, to the core where the fibers.
Oh, yeah, the fiber. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, so the long fibrous pieces. So then they would take it out of the river. And I think in an industrial setting, they leave it in the field, and they kind of pile it up in these, like, they look like cones. They kind of just cave them in on themselves, and they kind of bunch them up and hope for rain, because that'll help break them down faster.
Natural retting, yeah.
Exactly. And then after that, there's all these other things they do, but basically they have these, when you do it manually, they have these big boards, and they put a bunch of nails in them, and there's a bunch of nails, and it looks like a big hairbrush, and they'll throw the fiber on, and this is the carding process. They'll throw the fiber on and pull it through these nails, and it's like brushing it. And when they're done, it honestly looks like a blonde wig. It's so light blonde looking, and it looks like hair. It kind of looks like horse hair, like a horse's ponytail.
Interesting. Speaking of which, I don't know if you've ever seen, I've got a serious ponytail happening these days.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's going on back there?
Yeah, we got full line energy happening these days.
Yes. What?
Yeah, anyways.
Wow.
Back to what's important. I got
full
full lion's mane happening.
The last time we hung out
it's probably been a year or so, just over a year.
Event. Yeah. Looking good.
Thank you. So, okay, so those are some of the benefits, the advantages of the crop itself. Also, like you were talking about, less resources compared to something like, say, conventional cotton. Hemp uses far less water.
Far less water. And the other beautiful thing is, because it grows so fast, which I don't think I mentioned, it grows so fast that it outgrows any weeds, and it basically shades out and suffocates all the other weeds. So you don't even have to, you don't have to use pesticides. You don't have to use weed killers. You don't have to use all these chemicals, because it just takes over the crop, and the weeds have no chance.
Which is amazing. And the crop also communicates to itself, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Say, the sister plant, there's a reason why it's called weed, because it grows like a weed. Like, it grows so fast. And that's the other, I mean, there are so many amazing things about this plant. We could just go on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So in terms of water, because we were talking about water usage.
Yeah.
The lack of a need for like synthetic fertilizers, chemical pesticides, that kind of stuff. It also protects the water table, and also like watersheds and runoff as well, right? Because a lot of pollution in our waterways is agricultural runoff as well, right? Yeah, which in anyone who has even a cursory understanding of ecology knows that one thing begets another thing begets another thing. So once you have this runoff and it causes, say, a toxic algae bloom, then you start to have
which is an
sea life or lake life. Sorry?
The toxic algae blooms are excessive fertilizers ending up in
phosphorus
from farming, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And then you start to have a chain reaction set into
Yeah,
place, right?
it's all connected.
And then our health is impacted as well,
Yeah,
right?
that's the thing is like every little thing that we do somehow eventually comes back to us physically, not just spiritually.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's not, it's like,
I think I do know.
yeah, you know, it's, we can't escape. I mean, we all have to share this air and water and earth, and we can't escape it. So, hey, if you can buy more hemp, that'd be great because you're actually helping in so many ways that are invisible,
I
you know?
mean, that's why I initially got interested in working with hemp. So,
Yeah.
okay, so I got some more questions about your brand and
Yes.
your work as a designer. Now, you were mentioning that you're from Moldova, and I know that you have a very interesting history, and how you got here is a very cool story. Maybe we could save that for another
Yeah.
chat. But I was just wondering, because you were saying you do have roots, I was wondering, does your heritage, your ethnic heritage, your upbringing, your history, does that play into like at least your practice as a designer, or even like the aesthetics as well?
Yeah, actually, I had not purposely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I got into hemp and discovered it, even though it's like totally in my lineage, when I discovered it for myself, I had no idea that it ran so deep in my family, and that it was like my mom was like, "Oh, your grandmother used to." I never got to meet my grandmother. She passed away. My mom was 16, but I looked just like her, and my mom's always like, "You look like her, you're the same size." She used to loom her own fabrics, and she grew her own hemp, and I'm just like, she's lived my dream life. But yeah, I didn't realize until after I launched Immortelle, and I was, I mean, before I launched it, but getting to start a brand, I was talking about it for a long time and
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And my mom's like, "Oh yeah, kunyupa." That's what it's called back
That's
home.
what hemp's called.
Kunyupa. Yeah.
Kunypa in Romanian?
Kunyupa. Yeah. Romanian
Cool.
Moldavian. Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh, and uh, and so along with that, and also my dad shared this amazing story with me. This some photographer, he happened to be a photographer, was exploring the countryside in Moldova, and he found an abandoned home in like a small village that the village photographer lived in and abandoned, and he found boxes and boxes of negatives, and they are the most beautiful portraits of people in the village. And I think maybe I shared it with you, but in some of those photos you can see people posing in front of their hemp gardens,
Oh, that's so
and
cool.
it's so beautiful. There's like a woman with a bicycle in front of her hemp, and it was something like 20 kilometers away from my mom's village, very close by. Plus Moldova is really small. And there's like children sitting in the garden on the ground, and there's all this hemp around them. And I think since like, discovering my roots in that, and then also seeing these photographs and seeing um, how much hemp has been in my culture for so long, I have recently started looking more into like my ancestors and the traditions and stuff like that. So it's definitely informing my future designs, and just like adding to the brand in a way that I
I love
didn't
that.
plan. It's accidentally adding to the brand and kind of reinforcing why I'm doing what I'm doing, and that, it's been in me, but I didn't know this whole time. But,
So, okay, so we've talked a little bit about stuff kind of surrounding the brand. What exactly do you design? Like, what kind of clothing?
well, currently I just have a jumpsuit, like a one-piece jumpsuit
Hmm.
that's made out of a hemp twill. It's hemp and organic cotton blend. A lot of the time you'll see blends, because 100% hemp can be very tough and like really rigid. But the beautiful thing about hemp is the more you wash it, the softer it gets, but it still remains like a very strong fiber. And it kind of, you know, like an old, you know, when you buy like a crisp pair of jeans, like especially raw denim, and you
Hmm.
wear them for long enough, they kind of just mold to your body. Hemp does the same thing, even the blended hemp. So at first they feel really crispy and crunchy and like fresh and sharp. But then as you wear it in, it like just molds to you. It's like such a beautiful, kind of like linen, but linen has a bit of a different hand feel. It's a little more,
Hemp has more of a weight to it.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I have a jumpsuit, I have a hoodie and
Yep.
lounge
This
pants.
is it's mostly women's wear, right? But it's also unisex.
Yeah, it's unisex. Actually, the jumpsuit I want to, I've had a bunch of men ask me if I'm gonna make the men's ones. And I want to. And I've always loved menswear. And that's like I said, my grad collection, I in school, I did a menswear line. And I'm a tomboy at heart, so I just love menswear. So yeah, I'm going to offer a jumpsuit that doesn't have darts. That's the only thing about this jumpsuit that makes it more feminine. Anyone can wear
That's like
it.
in the waist where it like tucks in, right?
Yeah, the darts just kind of bring the waist in just to give it a little more shape because I did see a lot of, I mean, everybody makes jumpsuits, but I hadn't really seen any that were a little more form fitting and just a little, you know, a little
We
groove
got a
there.
question here from Whitney.
Oh,
Whitney wants to know, does hemp last longer than other fabrics?
absolutely. Um, I don't know if there's anything that outlasts hemp, to be perfectly honest, because it is such a strong fiber. Um, it doesn't break down as fast, and I don't know. I mean, maybe synthetics, but that's a different category, and there's too many cons in that category, you know?
Yep.
Uh,
So okay, so you're saying you have some jumpsuits, some hoodies. I know I got one of your hoodies.
jumpsuit.
I've been living in it for the past fall, winter so far. Yeah.
So,
Anyways,
um, yeah, so the hoodies I'm going to also offer in longer lengths because I know a bunch of guys want to wear them too, yourself included. You want a little bit of length. And yeah, so the jumpsuit I'm gonna make a similar one, but let the waist out. So it's just like whatever shape, just gonna be straight so that more people can wear it. And I have some pants and I have some dresses and I'm working on a couple new styles. I was gonna release a couple of styles for winter, but I think I'm gonna hold off until spring, summer and just have like a whole other like mini collection drop instead of kind of rush. Oh, I'm not rushing, but I've got some fun stuff, but I think I'm gonna hold off until I have a few more pieces to put it
now,
together.
okay, so when you say you're making some jumpsuits and you're making some hoodies and sweats and stuff like that,
Yeah.
you actually mean you're making it like with those two mitts over there, right?
I am physically doing everything in this entire company. The only thing I don't make is the labels. I ordered the labels. Somebody made me labels professionally. Otherwise, I do all of the design work. I do all the pattern drafting, the fitting, the sewing, and I produce everything. Meaning, like when I'm done the design stage and I have my final sample and it's all good to go, then I sew it all myself. And a lot of it, I mean, I have some stuff that's pre-made, just like a very small size run. Otherwise, everything's made to order because I'm such a small brand, I can do that because I have time to, you know, if I get an order for a jumpsuit, I have time to sew it. And
Hmm.
that reduces fabric waste, which is a whole other conversation. But I do that so that I can save resources, I can save time, and then whatever, you know, I only make what we need. And that should be kind of everyone's motto, you know, only take what you need, only make what you need, because there would be a lot less waste in this world if we operated that way.
Which brings me to something else I wanted to ask you about. So
Mhm.
we're both small business owners. We both have convictions regarding the environment and like social awareness, health, and
Yeah,
many other things in life, right?
yeah,
And we've kind of become like reluctant participants in this system of local and global capitalism, right?
yeah.
And Uh, I was just wondering if you could share some of the reasons why you think it's important to, especially like this time of year where people are shopping for the holidays. You had Black Friday, you have Boxing Day, all these things coming up. Why is it so important to shop from small business owners, independents, local businesses, craftsmen, artisans?
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that matter? I know you do.
So many thoughts. Well, I mean, I feel like everyone should know this, but maybe they don't. I don't know.
Well, it
Uh,
helps to hear it again, right?
Pardon?
It helps to hear it again, even
It
myself
does.
included.
Just a little reinforcement.
Yeah.
Well, from like a general perspective, it, if you're shopping local, like we said earlier, fabrics and things get treated, clothing gets treated with chemicals to get shipped overseas so that it doesn't go bad on shipping containers.
Hmm.
You don't have to do that when you're buying local, you know? There's like all these weird little things that you have to think about. And then, yeah, the carbon footprint, much smaller. You're keeping money in your community, it's helping, it's like helping where you live be a better place too,
I forget what
Um,
the exact number is, but I think it's like something like 40 cents to the dollar stays in the local economy, something like that,
wow,
when you shop local.
that's a lot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like especially after this year, or it's been 2 years, I guess, since the pandemic, but um almost 2 years,
Hmm.
right? Yeah, what year is it?
Well, I don't know. Yeah.
In this whole time that we've been through, it's been really nice to see the focus shift to local because we kind of had to for a while there. You couldn't just order everything off of Amazon. You couldn't. Remember when Amazon was down and if you needed to order something, it took like 3 months to get? I think
I
that
don't remember that, but I
you
take your
don't.
word for it.
It was like I remember everybody talking about it. It was the winter of the first year of the pandemic. Last year, right? Yeah. Was it? Yes.
I I don't know. You know what? I try to limit my Amazon usage. I mean, I'm guilty of having
I
to
know,
use it on
same.
occasion, but
But there
yeah,
was,
maybe I was just spaced out then.
I remember people being like, "Oh my God, I can't get an order for 3 months." Like that's how long it was taking. But I think the beauty in that, I mean, the beauty in not shopping at Amazon, there's a lot of good reasons to not shop at Amazon.
Hmm.
But no judgment if you have to. Sometimes I have to because it's absolutely impossible to find anywhere
And
else.
there are local or independent
Sellers.
manufacturers, sellers
Yeah,
on Amazon as well
that's true.
who are just
That's
doing their best, right? So
totally
yeah, no
exactly.
shade, no
No,
shade.
no shade. But I think that happening helped people see the value in supporting local and kind of open their eyes to it. And they're just like, oh, well, I could get it locally. And then you kind of discover new places to buy certain things or whatever. Um, so, yeah.
And you know what else? I'm going to speak on your behalf for one moment, or at least
Okay.
advocate for you. When you
Do it.
support somebody who has a small business, right, an independent business, you love designing clothes, right?
I love it more than
This
I.
is your passion. And when you support a local artisan, an independent designer, you're supporting your ability to do something that you love, right?
So true. So true. Yeah. I mean, getting paid to do something that I wanted to do since I was a kid is like a pretty magical thing. Um, I'm not going to say it was easy getting here.
Hmm.
Took a lot of guts because I had to do a lot of humbling things to 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 run this. I had to make a lot of sacrifices and a lot of scary moves and things like that.
I can relate.
You can relate, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's scary. And I think that's why a lot of people don't go after things that they really, really love because it is scary. And I understand that. So when somebody's supporting you, it honestly means the world, you know?
And
It's,
also, people are getting things that are way more unique, right?
Absolutely. And you're giving somebody, you know, an exchange for the endless hours that it took to, you know, to gain those skills. Like I've been sewing forever. It's been, I did the math. It's been over 20 years that I started sewing, which is crazy. It makes me feel so old. But yeah, the fact that people are willing to, you know, buy things that I make that took me this long to get good at is like makes me emotional, you know? It's like, wow, people want to support this thing that I've wanted to do since I was a little kid, which is pretty damn cool.
You know what? There's actually something else I was curious about because I think we've spoken about it briefly before, and I see it as a pattern happening in the kind of dynamic between independent labels, designers, and the whole kind of like big fast fashion machine is,
Yeah.
and I see it happening over and over again. And I'm not even that like I'm contrary to what you might believe. I'm not that plugged into the whole fashion world, right? This just happens. Um, it's that local designers, independent designers, excuse me, they have their designs pinched by like these mega companies all the time, right?
All the time, like openly all the time. I'm just like, they don't even care to hide it. Yeah, it's crazy.
So when you're supporting an independent designer, you're supporting actual creativity and not, a mood board in a boardroom where somebody's just.
I participated in those mood boards, you know, let's just get inspired by whatever. It's such common practice. That was the other kind of gross thing that put me off of fashion for a long time because it was really lacking real creativity. Because when you're putting out 13 collections in 1 year, as opposed to the traditional 4 seasons of the year, there's no time for creativity. When you're pumping styles out like that, there is no time for creativity. So it just goes hand in hand with the whole fast fashion thing. It's like, not only is it too much and it's too fast, it's also gross because they have to rip people off to keep up with how fast they're producing styles. And then not only that is you have to think about how quickly they make you feel irrelevant because the next season's already out and the last thing is already uncool.
That's also something that I was thinking about while listening to you is that because we were talking about kind of like the superfluous nature of consumption, especially when it comes to fashion, because you have, I feel like it's getting increased so fast, the turnover of like trend cycles that
Yeah,
it's like how many times a year even, right? Like does something come and go?
it's really sickening. And I sometimes I realize that maybe I live in a little bubble, but I feel like people are getting sick of it. I don't know if it's like finally catching up where it's to the point that it's kind of exhausting to have to even visually see so much going on all the time and like having to consume, even just mentally consume these things.
Hmm.
But then every now and then I see like a Zara haul or a Shine haul where people spend hundreds of dollars at these places and they just like it's like binge shopping, and it's really off-putting and really makes my heart hurt.
So does that whole kind of like quick turnover of trend cycles, does that factor in either consciously or like just like naturally in the way that you make clothing and like the design choices that you make?
Yeah, my design choices are very inspired by vintage, which is like I love vintage and I love thrifting. And there's some stuff that will just never go out of style. You know, look at a pair of Levi's. That's not ever going to change. You know, the shape will change here and there, but like there's just some stuff is vintage and it stays good because it was designed properly and it was kind of, I mean, yeah, there's like, you know, in the 70s, very out there, really groovy things, but those things will always cycle back. That's the thing about vintage is like it always I I never get rid of my vintage stuff. I like to clean my closet out, you know, donate whatever and sell stuff off. But I will keep stuff that I love, even if it's not on trend, because it always comes back on trend at some point. There was always this thing that they would say, I don't know if it was in fashion school or just like in the fashion world, but it's like you look at the shoe shapes and the shoe toe shapes. They always cycle through in this like order of pointy toe, almond toe, whatever. Right now we're in a square toe. We're in square toe phase.
Interesting.
And it'll come back.
I didn't know this.
You know
I'm
what?
getting educated right now.
I resisted the square toe thing because it's very 90s and some of them are very square, like very angular and square.
Mm-hmm.
And I resisted it when it came back around this time because I haven't seen it since like, I don't even know, the late 90s. It's been a long time since we've had like a legitimate square toe moment. But you know what? It's recently grown on me and I do have some kind of square-ish toed shoes because of it some like sweet vintage ones.
You know, I was thinking about fashion cycles. You know how like when you're in like Europe or whatever, when you're in France or Spain and they're like, oh, they're so cool here. They go out and party. Like everyone goes out at like, they don't even go out until 3 in the morning, right? You know what I mean? And so like, I was thinking like, oh, well, we're so cool. We don't go out until like 5 in the morning, right? And I feel like that whole coolness and like the acceleration of the cycle gets to the point where it's just like, yeah, I'm so cool that I go out at like a regular time. I go out at like 9, 10 o'clock and like, but I'm going out for like the next, or yesterday, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm just going out really late early. And so I feel like this is just my like psychotic rambling, right? But I feel like fashion cycles have accelerated so much that it's just kind of imploding on itself. So you should just wear whatever you want.
Absolutely. Like you can ironically wear a really pointed toe shoe right now just to get ahead of the curve because it's eventually going to go there, you know?
Oh, that's exactly what I'm on right now.
That's what you're trying to say. I understand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And we definitely live in a very interesting time right now because I think we have our specific, you know, designs that only happen this year, but I think when you look at a fashion timeline, a lot of original things happened, you know, in the 1910s. A lot of original things happened in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. But I don't know if it's because we live in this 2000s right now and we can't see it yet, but I feel like
we live in the 2020s now.
What?
We live in not just 2000s, 2020s. It's wild.
Sorry, we're in the 2020s. That's right. Yeah. But I feel like we don't have. Okay, wait. We did have a Y2K moment. The early 2000s had a very specific style.
Yeah.
And now that we're in the 20s, I'm like.
It's easier to see in retrospect, though, you know?
Yeah, I feel like all I see is we're just borrowing from the past. I don't know what is really specific design-wise to the 2020s, you know?
So, okay, you're talking about like square shoes. You said they were very like square toe shoes. You said they're very 90s, but they're making a comeback. Is there anything else? Like, I want to just get some of your fashion forecasting happening right now.
I mean, there are some things that are very 2020, like the really futuristic sneakers that I don't know anything about.
Huge air bubble heel kind of things.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Maybe there's people here that know any 2020 specific fashion styles. I don't really know them. And
if Whitney's still watching, I know Whitney's the most fashionable dude I've ever met. So if you're still, I don't know if you're still there, but if you can tell us what's up in 2020 for menswear, Whitney.
Yeah, where are you at?
Yeah, exactly. Where are you at, Whitney? Okay, I got a question for you then. Regardless of whether or not it's uniquely 2020, right? Mm-hmm. So you mentioned like the square toes. And I don't want you to alienate anyone listening, so this is just in jest. But is there a trend that is just like completely like rubs you the wrong way, or like you just not buying, not into it?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of touched on it. It's the like chunky orthopedic sneakers.
Okay.
I can't get behind it. I can't get behind it. It's not my jam. And I know people would hate my cowboy boots, and that's fine. But I just I it's also I find the people younger than our age group, they're really into it.
Yeah, well, we're old now, right?
Yeah, we're the olds now.
Yeah,
We're 30s.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's really the sneakers. I was hating the square toe shoes, and now I'm kind of semi-sold on them. It took me a
So
while to
maybe
get.
you'll be wearing some chunky orthopedic looking Skechers or whatever
I
soon
can't
too.
do it.
Okay, so I got another question because we were talking a little bit about vintage, and I see that a cool vintage shop just joined the conversation here. And guys, if you have questions for Aneta, drop them below. But you also do some curation of vintage goods yourself, right?
I do. I just can't help myself. Um, yeah, I have
And
a
people
lot.
can find that stuff, right?
Yes, it's on. Okay, I'm not very good. I haven't posted a lot on the website, but I really should. It's just like anything that's not on my website, I have on my Instagram. I have just a little highlight of what's available, but I really should put it up on my site. But yeah. Oh yeah. So I wanted to say everything that I design is based off of something vintage inspired because they're not timeless, but they have stood the test of time to stay relevant till today. Like I said, like a Levi's, like a good Levi's, a good chore jacket. I may or may not have just designed one.
Interesting.
You know, just like really good classic pieces that were amazing when they were invented and designed the very first time, and it's still being worn today. It's still relevant today, you know. Although I will say that I eventually like to have a little bit more fun. I did have a little bit of fun with the dresses, but I will do a little more fun, like trendy stuff. But I'd really like to have a lot of those core pieces that people can keep for a really long time because hemp wears so beautifully and lasts so long that it would be cool to, you know, buy these clothes now, keep them forever, give them to your future generations. I'd love to have Immortelle do that. And it can because a lot of these things are hemp and they last forever. So
I think that's a good segue to another question. I know we've been kind of bouncing around between like the history of how you started all this to like some ecological concerns to design philosophy and then your do's and don'ts kind of thing. Like remember Vice do's and don'ts?
Vice?
Yeah, you remember when Vice used to have like the do's and don'ts?
Oh, I found a huge tub of Vice magazines in my basement.
Okay. Anyways, what I was going to ask you, Aneta, is so okay. You're talking about potentially having something that could last and be passed to the next generation, right? Like the coziest sweats that you can have that have been worn in for a couple decades.
Yeah.
What are the best ways to care for like natural fibers like hemp, especially like the kind of clothing you make, or just in general? What are some best practices that people can do that are the healthiest for like your own skin microbiome, or for like the most ecologically responsible care practices for taking care of your clothing?
I love this question because I made a very extensive care guide on my website, and whenever somebody orders something, I have a little thank you card, and on the back is like a very long, people probably don't read it, care guide. But I think I'm glad you brought this up because that is a really big component of, you know, keeping fashion sustainable. So this isn't on the care card, but I want people to wear stuff more times before they wash it. You know, wear those pants a few more times before you wash. You don't have to wash. I don't personally know anyone that washes their pants every time they wear them. Or maybe if their job is
I don't know if this is disgusting, but like I barely ever wash jeans. Like
I barely ever wash jeans.
I only wash jeans if they're like visibly dirty.
Exactly. Even t-shirts for me, you know, I'll wear them a few times until it just is like, okay, maybe it smells a little bit, or you get a little
light, yeah.
You know, And then there's stuff that you got to wash all the time. Socks, underwear, bras, whatever. Even bras, I wear them a few times before I wash them because it's like,
Okay.
how dirty are they really getting?
Yeah.
So that saves tons of water.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is all my clothes that I make, they all wash well in cold water. Cold water,
Cold water.
Pardon?
Cold water.
Cold water, yes. And then you have to use the right detergent, make sure it's cold water friendly so that it's actually dissolving in cold water, because not all detergents will do that, especially if you use like a powdered one. I use Nellie's. Do you know Nellie's? They come in little metal, not little, they come in metal tins like this, and it's very concentrated laundry soda.
You know, one of the things that drives me nuts is like the big plastic jug is such an event. It's such an event, the plastic laundry detergent jug, that it's like, I've been like, when I was living in Costa Rica, they had like just, I mean, it was still plastic, but it was just like a little baggy kind of like saran almost of laundry, like liquid or powder. And you could buy the big jug, but you didn't have to buy that every time. And I was like, oh, this makes me such, like, it relieves so much stress to not have this. You can hear me getting stressed out thinking about this big stupid jug that you have to get every time you want to wash your t-shirts.
Exactly. And you know what's ridiculous about, oh no, sorry, my phone's popping off.
My friends from Simpla Foods just joined. They're awesome.
Oh, Miss Mosu is here. It's my bestie, actually. So Adam, oh my God, Cloves is here. Sorry, I like couldn't reach her back here. I feel like the only fashion trend that is iconic from the 2020s in this part of the world are matching face masks.
That's a good point. That's true though, and I don't think it's going away, right? Like,
I don't think so either.
No.
Dang, that's a good one, and really kind of sad, but it's okay.
Dystopia chic. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing about liquid laundry detergent is you're paying for a lot of water when you're buying liquid. Which, okay, yeah, water, whatever. But when you think about that much space being taken up on a truck,
and
or
it's not a square, it's
like the amount of space that an object takes up when it's being shipped around the world, and the weight of it, you're basically paying for water to be shipped around when we already have water here. So my first suggestion is to go find a really great powder based, or there's like those True Earth laundry strips that are like a little piece of paper, and you just tear it and it's like whatever.
I get targeted ads from them all the time.
It's probably gonna get us even more now because we
hey, True Earth, send me some samples, guys.
Yeah, send it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I personally use Nellie's. It's a laundry soda. It's concentrated, so it's like the scoops are also really tiny, super concentrated, lasts me forever. You can also order it from Costco in a huge pail, and it's like, I think it's over 1,000 washes. It's like a huge bucket.
So can I interrupt for 1 second? Yeah. We got another question coming in.
Oh, yes.
Have you made any baby clothes, or do you plan on ever making?
You know what? I have made some baby clothes for friends. And I was like, don't tell anyone because I don't want to make kids clothes yet. But I would love to make baby clothes eventually. When I get there, I would love to make baby clothes, because who wouldn't want their baby to wear clean, organic clothes? You know? Absolutely,
especially a baby's delicate skin, right?
Totally. And my friend Genevieve just came on, and she's got a kid.
Yeah, so hey, and they're the future, right? That's why we care about all this stuff. It's not just for it, I mean, it is for our health as well, but you know the saying, right? We don't inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children, right?
Exactly. I love that saying. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Okay, so more about like best practices in terms of like our own health, our own skin, our own biome, as well as like the wider health of, you know, our home, right? Yeah. What are some other things that we can do? So cold water is one of them. Powdered laundry detergent that is generally cold water friendly and probably with the least amount of, I'm guessing like I know that like stuff like phthalates and synthetic fragrances are generally not biome friendly.
Not at all. I actually quit all that stuff long ago. Before it was kind of the beginning of my health journey of like into the wellness world. I would started
Mhm.
getting like hives and stuff, and I realized that my laundry detergent and like dryer sheets and all that crap were irritating my skin and giving me weird hives on my hands and things.
Hormone disruptors.
Totally. And I
Yeah.
was just at an Airbnb in Montreal, and the sheets smelled good, but they were synthetic, like synthetic laundry detergent. I could tell that it was like Gain, very strongly scented. It smelled like there was like a Glade plug-in beside the bed, but it was just the sheets because I'm so not used to it. But after the trip, I had hives on my hands. But yeah, synthetic fragrances, huge hormone disruptors, and that's like one of the main reasons why I got rid of all scented products. And if I do use scented, it's naturally scented, essential oils, whatever. But with laundry stuff, I don't really do that. I have those like, those wool dryer balls.
Yep.
I drop like lavender essential oils on them, and you just throw them in the dryer, and it makes your stuff smell good. And they
That's
actually
about
work.
it.
The balls work way better than dryer sheets or whatever
You
else.
know, isn't it funny? You're mentioning that you got hives from sleeping on sheets that were washed with like a scented synthetic
Chemical.
detergent.
Yeah.
And isn't it funny that like it's kind of a pattern I see? Same thing with food, that when you kind of eliminate these things from your system, that you become so sensitive to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I know some people who eat and drink and smoke and do whatever to
Do it
their
all. Yeah.
body, and they don't get affected by any of it. I mean, they also don't realize like that they're not feeling well, but
In the long run, they do, but
of course, yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah,
in
I'm
the
not advocating for people to
to do
poison
it.
themselves and pollute themselves. I'm just saying it's a funny
Yeah.
pattern that like once you've eliminated these things from your system,
Yeah.
how when you come into contact with them again, either through like physical contact, if it's something like something that was washed or synthetic fabric,
Yeah.
or if you eat
Chemical.
something that was maybe not the healthiest or had some sort
Yeah.
of pesticides or whatever it
Yeah.
is, you're gonna really notice it, right?
You feel it so much more. It's wild.
It's
And then
wild.
it makes you question like, wow, how long was I feeling unwell? And it just became a normal, you know? I always wonder that.
I like
Um,
when like the radiator shuts off and you're like, oh, it's
oh
like
yeah,
quiet
that's
here.
nice. Yeah,
Later,
exactly.
Simpla Foods.
Your friends.
We
Bye.
love you guys. Yeah, they're awesome. They make they make natural like no additive yogurt.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, fellow
Like,
surfers.
nice.
They're based out in Hockley Valley.
Oh, they're local.
Yeah, they're awesome. Yeah,
That's awesome.
New Zealand uh, expat.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Love
Okay,
it.
so yeah, take care. We love you guys. Okay, so I love this discussion, by the way, Aneta. Thank you so much for doing this with us.
Likewise. Thank you for having
Okay, so cold water,
me.
uh,
Yeah. So off
like
topic.
unscented, powdered, cold water friendly detergents.
Yeah.
Uh, you said like wool dryer balls instead of like using dryer sheets, like the bath
Mm-hmm.
sheets or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some other things that you can do to
So
lower your footprint and have healthier best practices?
with the dryer,
Hmm.
try not to use it if you don't have to. I know it's difficult if you don't have a lot of space to hang stuff. Or, if you don't like that like crunchy, the like crunchy clothes feel after
I love that personally, but yeah,
you do. You love
yeah.
the like crunchy t-shirt feel.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I'm a glutton for pain, so
um, so my tip is if you don't like the crunchy thing, let them air dry, whatever, until they're dry. And then for like 2 minutes, throw it in the dryer, no heat, just to tumble it up, just to get it like softened up again. Another thing about using a dryer is it wears your clothes out so much faster. So every time you're tumble drying stuff, same with washing, but you can't really do the washing any other way. But if you can hang to dry, you're not like wearing out the fibers as often. So stuff will last longer. Color, especially natural dyes, will also fade faster in like heat, dryer, depending, sometimes in the sun. So there's like, if you are buying naturally dyed clothing, you should dry it out of the sun because it can bleach the color out.
But sometimes that looks cool, you know?
Yeah, sometimes it's cool if it's on purpose. Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, what else? That's kind of
Okay,
it.
so also, does hemp does it shrink?
Depends on the fabric.
Gotcha.
So
If it's
sweats,
a blend, I guess maybe it will.
sorry, I have a tickle in my throat. um, yeah, it depends on the fabric. Like the twill on the jumpsuit doesn't really shrink, but the big like chunky knit stuff will shrink a bit. And you can keep it from shrinking by using either hot water or not using hot water, not using hot water, using cold water, hang to dry. And then if you want to stretch something out, you can hang it on a hanger while it's wet and pull on it and then let it air dry. So you can like kind of
This also reduces your energy costs as well. So these aren't just things about sustainability and environmentally conscious practices. These are also economically sound practices as well.
Exactly.
Which I think fits the whole larger message that sometimes, you know, in the wider discussion of what we need to be doing to tackle larger environmental challenges, the economy is usually used as a justification for why we can't or shouldn't be doing certain things. And I think if you actually look closer, the most sustainable things to do are the most sustainable for our planet and for our economy as well, right? Absolutely. Especially if you're looking longer term, because you and I both know that you can't just eat money, right?
No, you definitely can't.
I've tried it.
Have you?
Okay, I got another question for you.
Okay.
So that is all well and good for stuff that is made with the best fabrics and textiles, right? Yeah. I've heard that synthetic textiles are responsible for a lot of microplastics.
Yeah.
And when you're and we all have some stuff that is made with synthetics, right?
Yeah, like I have some workout gear.
Yeah, stuff that has some like spandex or polyester or whatever it is, right?
Totally.
You can't avoid it altogether. I mean, it would be nice if we can, and hopefully that's the direction things are going. But we're not casting shade on anyone who has it, because I have some of that stuff. I'm sure you do.
I mean, a bunch of my vintage has polyester. I love the 70s and 60s, and there was a lot of polyester in that time.
So I've heard that adding like a screen, there's some sort of filter or screen you can put in your washing machine.
Yeah. So there's like an aftermarket thing, but you know what I was thinking? It'd be really cool if all washing machine companies, or if the country would make a law that every washing machine had one of these built in. Right? Wouldn't that make sense?
There's so many things that make sense that we should be doing.
It would be really cool. So yeah, it's basically just this attachment that you can buy. I think I saw one. I don't have one, but I think you can get them for like $200 now.
We're gonna look into this later, okay?
Yeah, I remember when they first came out. I think it was Girlfriend Collective. So they make recycled plastic, like post-consumer recycled plastic leggings and workout stuff. Mm-hmm. I think they came out on their website. You could buy this attachment filter that attaches to your washing machine, but I think it's only attachable to certain machines. I'm not sure what the restrictions are, but I did recently see that there's a newer one out. But the other workaround is there's the guppy bag. Don't know if you've heard of that.
Nope.
It looks like it's definitely more cost efficient. I think they're like $30-40. It just looks like a big mesh bag with a zipper. It looks like a garment wash bag, which I already use a bunch of those wash bags because I have a lot of delicate things that's another thing about like keeping your clothing lasting longer. Use gentle cycle, use those wash bags, especially for like the finer fabrics and like more delicate things. The wash bags are awesome. I even sometimes throw like wool sweaters in the wash bags just so that they're not constantly rubbing on everything else in the machine, which is what makes wool shrink and turn into like a matted ball.
We got another tip here too.
Gloves. throwing a clean dry bath towel in the dryer for 15 to 20 minutes with your load will cut your drying time by a lot. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's
I'll have to try that. Cool.
That's my friend Cloves. Love her. Just saw her in Montreal last week. Yeah, I didn't know that. I'm gonna try that. Yeah, so the guppy bag works as it's like a filter. So anything that's synthetic, you put in this bag, wash as normal, and then over time, in the corners of the bag, there's like a little flap pocket thing. I think all the corners, but especially at the top where the zipper is, you turn it inside out, and that's where all the plastic microparticles collect.
And you can
So
see
you
it,
just
right?
empty it out. You can see it over time. I think if you're constantly washing synthetics, that it'll build up over time, and you can just like, you clean out the bag by turning the corners out. And yeah, it's called a guppy bag. I'm pretty sure Patagonia even sold it on their site. I think I saw it there. I saw it on places like
What
that.
is it that they say, like every year or something, we like ingest like a credit card's worth of plastic or something? Something
Yeah,
I
like
don't
if you're just drinking tap water, yeah. Like it's
crazy.
everywhere now, and they've even found plastic microparticles in the North Pole in the snow. It's like in snow now too. So we can't really escape it. And like the number one culprit is from textiles because it's already such a small particle, and everyone's washing their synthetics, and you know we're all in on this plastic microparticle game. But what's this? Hey, we're in it together.
Yeah, exactly. It's backwards,
It.
but yeah.
Backwards, but that's it. Yeah.
Okay, so you're in your studio right now, right? Is that
Yeah.
what I see behind you?
Yeah, yeah. This
Do
is,
you have anything you can show us?
there's my Juki, my straight stitch. Still have to get these up on the wall. This is my serger. It has a safety stitch, a nice vintage machine. It's named Celadon after the jade glaze. You want to see some clothes?
Yeah, let's see some stuff.
Okay, okay. Let me grab some stuff. Okay, let's see. So this is the jumpsuit. It comes in white and black. I will be playing with dyes. You know, it started snowing here, which kind of sucks because I do all of my fabric dyeing outside. So I'm gonna have to wait until it warms up again, but I'm definitely gonna be playing with a lot more color this coming season. So yeah, it's just like a nice fitted in the waist, some 70s style patch pockets, a little bit of a flare at the bottom. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of it's got a little bit of a vintage style to it just because of the pockets, but it's a pretty classic piece. It looks really good fitted. Like if you buy it in your size, it looks great fitted, but it also looks awesome oversized. If you want like a looser fit and you don't want it to really hug the waist, you just go up a size and it looks sweet. So there's that. So this is a hemp and organic cotton, a nice heavy duty fabric that softens with wear. Love this fabric. Genevieve wants one. What else? Okay. These are some groovy striped hemp and organic cotton pants.
Those are pretty sweet.
They are high-waisted. They have a nice high waist. They sit on the true waist. Some vintage-inspired pointed back pockets, giving me 70s vibe. These are cool because I found these dead stock YKK gold zippers. They're like old school zippers on cotton tape, which, by the way, a lot of zippers come on a polyester tape, but these ones are cotton and they have a cool little like dangly gold pull. So there's that. These also come in a white, like just like a crisp white hemp organic
Love
cotton.
it.
What else we got?
I'll be waiting for the men's version of that, or not. I'll just wear the women's one. Who cares?
You know what?
Lenny Kravitz always wears. I love Lenny Kravitz. He's always wearing women's clothes. David Bowie.
I think 2 guys ask
Yeah,
for
Mick Jagger is wearing women's clothes.
Heck
David
yeah.
Bowie. Oh,
Also,
it's 2020. It's 2021. Who cares, right?
I know, it's like, it doesn't matter. I just need to, the only thing is I need to make, the shape would be a little bit different for men's, and it needs a little more room in the crotch.
Oh yeah, exactly. The crotchular area.
Like
No, you'll have to make extra spacious. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the dress. This one's actually, I think 100%. Wait, no, 55-45. My bad. I have another one that's 100% hemp, but it's this style, and it has like a really nice elasticated sleeves. You can wear it up. You can like pull it up, and the elastic will keep the sleeve up when you're doing stuff. I have a hidden side pocket. Very forgiving shape. It's very flowy. I offer it in full length or mid length, just below the knee, or above the knee in a mini. Easy. My friends that are breastfeeding love this style because you can really
easy access.
Yeah, easy access. Has a little clasp here. Genevieve, pockets are always key. Thanks guys. Cloves. Thank you. And then let me grab a couple more things. I just realized I could bring a bunch of stuff over all at once. Here. So before it got too cold, I started dyeing some stuff. I haven't released this yet, so nobody knows, but this, and the light's not great, but this is dyed with black walnut that I locally harvested myself. The black walnut, it makes like this really beautiful taupe color.
Black walnut, like it's growing around here, around like the end of summer. You can find it, right?
Yeah, there's like
almost like citrusy smell, right?
Yes, they smell amazing. They're like a bright green color, but once they hit the ground or crack or anything, they start to oxidize and turn black, and that's what the color comes from.
There's a big tree right out here that grows black walnuts.
No way! I need to come harvest them.
Yeah, I'll scoop some up for you when it's growing next season.
So this past year, we had a really good year for black walnut. It was like a bumper crop year where all of the trees were dropping tons of fruit. So
I'll try. Okay, hold on. I just saved it in the hard drive. I'll remember to get you some black walnuts.
Yes. So yeah, it makes this beautiful taupe color. The dye itself is very tannin rich, so it's like really great to dye with and keeps its color for a long time. Makes this beauty color. And the hoodie, this is what I started the company with. And the lounge pants. Nice big pocket on the back. Yes, it fits an iPhone 12 Pro Max, 13 Pro Max, whatever size you have. Big old phones. Side pockets, hidden. These are hemp organic cotton. This fabric is a French terry. It's got the big loops. It's not that fleecy stuff. It's like a big chunky French terry loops. It's a classic set. And then I played around with some of the black walnut dye on these too. It's a nice taupe set that I want to release soon. And then I also have these in a dark navy blue. And
Aneta, I'm going to share this just in case anyone's watching after the fact. This stuff makes great gifts, and I know it's gift season, so people can find this stuff on your online shop and on your Instagram, right?
Yes, and if you need anything for the holidays, what date is it? I know December 8th. For international orders outside of Ontario, December 8th is the cutoff date for getting it before Christmas Day. So if you want to gift it before Christmas, December 8th is that cutoff date. If you're more local, it's December 13th. If you need it for the holidays.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, so those are some of the. Thank you for showing us your pieces, by the way, in your studio.
My pleasure. Thank you for asking.
Okay, so we've touched on kind of the background of your brand, right? We've talked about your design style, some of the issues surrounding the fashion industry, right? Was
Yeah.
there anything else you wanted to add about like major issues you're seeing happening within the industry? Things that people should be aware of?
Hmm. Oh, so hard to say. The thing that comes to mind right now
Hmm.
is the whole online shopping and returning stuff. I know it's really hard uh, to know how something's going to fit when you're buying it online. And my suggestion is to go to my website, even if you're not buying from me, and go look at my fit guide. I've gone very extensive on the information on how to properly measure yourself and what everything means. Like when somebody says like, how do I measure a rise on a pant? Like that's so important because, it's from the crotch to however high the pants sit. And then from that line, that's where you have to measure your waist. Because you're not measuring your true waist. Sometimes it's not where your body bends, like where it creases when you bend sideways. Sometimes the waist of the pant will sit lower, and that depends on the rise. And like there's so many things that need to be explained in fit measurements, but also companies, especially big companies, they won't give you the actual measurement of the actual garment. They'll just give you if you're our size 28, this is what your measurements are kind of like. It's not the actual garment. And if you're buying from a smaller designer, message them and ask them for the actual measurements once you know your personal measurements so that you don't have to ship stuff back and forth, because that is a really big carbon footprint as well. And returns, I forget what the statistics were, but it was like a very scary, staggering number of how many things get returned after the holidays. And it's scary. I think it's like we're wasting more resources than when we used to have to go to the mall, when we would have to buy stuff in person. So
And generally speaking, you'll pay for that. Someone's paying for it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You know
Um,
what? You were mentioning before the Rana Plaza disaster,
yeah.
right? And I mean, I think it's obvious part of like the slow fashion ethos, but I know that a few weeks ago there was an expose about I forget what the parent company is, but it's the company that owned like Blue Notes Denim, something like that.
Uh-huh.
They've been tied to slave labor.
Oh, the cotton
Did you hear
in
about this?
uh
There's a bunch of Canadian fashion brands that have been connected to some manufacturers in Asia that were there's an expose that
yeah.
they were using slave labor.
Um Here's the thing is a lot of fast fashion brands use slave labor and child labor. It's just not always exposed. I can guarantee you
It's
that,
buried in the supply chain too, right?
absolutely. And people that run these big companies, they don't want to take responsibility because they don't really have to. So they're not going to unless they have to, unless they're exposed. And even when when the Rana Plaza collapse happened, there were, I think it was something like 12 other companies were having their goods produced at the same factory, and only two of them, including the one that I worked with, owned up to it and publicly told people, yes, we had our stuff manufactured here, but everybody else didn't. They didn't publicize, and the companies that knew who they weren't going to out them. And I it's nice that some of them did own up to it, but the thing is like, what happened after? Nothing. Nobody took any further responsibility of making sure that the work environment is safe, is ethical, the employees are being treated properly, are being paid a fair wage, are not being abused, it's just like they they don't take that responsibility on themselves, and they don't have to, because it's always like, well, it's their factory, why should we implement these rules when they should be the ones? But the thing is about these big brands is they'll go to those countries because they have loose labor laws and they can get away with a lot, and they can drive the price down. And you'll see $5 t-shirts, which is, people should be alarmed by that, because the only way that you can cut costs is in labor. You can only, cotton will always cost this much. Like something physical like cotton or the materials, whatever they're making the product out of, is always going to have a price. But where the price can waver or not exist sometimes is in labor. And
generally speaking, that fast fashion is fast come, fast go, right?
exactly.
And so you might be paying a smaller price tag in the immediate in terms of dollar price tag. I'm not talking about, the human cost, the cost of environmental impact, but I'm talking about strictly from a dollar perspective. That stuff
Yep.
is going to be produced with inferior quality
Absolutely.
materials and craftsmanship, right? Mass
Exactly.
produced. And
Yeah.
so when you're getting from, I mean, there are some larger brands, like some of the ones that we were mentioning before, like Patagonia or like Young
Yeah.
Maven,
Those are the
that are
odd
making
ones
some
out. Yeah.
higher quality stuff, right? I know there's also like Kelly Slater's brand, Outer Known, is kind of industry leader in best practices as well.
Totally. Totally.
Um, and of course, there is more kind of a spotlight being pointed in the direction of where things need to be. How much of that is lip service or marketing is up for
Yeah.
debate. But the thing that I'm getting at is that when you're purchasing something that is made with this kind of quality craftsmanship and it's made with materials that are going to last,
Yep.
you might be paying a little bit more upfront, but these things aren't going to be repeat
Exactly.
purchases over and over again, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Especially if you're using all those care tips that we were chatting about earlier.
Totally. You can buy the same crappy shirt 10 times, or you could buy, maybe t-shirts are not the best example. Let's say pants. You can buy some crappy fast fashion, super cheap pants, however many times they wear out faster, the seams rip, the
I find my pockets would get shredded up and
they
destroyed.
blow out. Yeah,
Yeah.
stuff blows out. Or you could find a brand, you can do your research, make sure that stuff, the measurements fit right. A lot of these companies love to help people with fitting issues. There's even some that will do virtual meetings with you, or like video calls if you want, and they'll walk you through how to measure stuff, and they can suggest you the right size, especially when you're spending more money. You want to make sure that you're going to get something that fits right, and you could buy it just once. And that's actually cheaper in the long run, instead of buying the same crappy whatever over and over and over again. And yeah.
Plus, you look so much cooler. You got such better drip when you're doing that,
Exactly. And and then that's where it also plays in with, like, buy stuff that's timeless, because then you're going to be able to keep it for that long, because it will last you much longer when you're buying something.
So, Aneta, so you're touching on something else that I want to ask you about. So you were talking earlier about how having like perfection when it comes to our consumption, be it with food, like fashion, whatever it is, fitness, all these kinds of things. There's kind of like a direction that we're all aiming at if we're looking for the best practices, but accessibility
Yeah,
and resources aren't the same for everybody, right?
totally.
We all come from different places. We all have different means,
Yeah.
and I think it's maybe a little bit of like a fallacy to be striving for perfection. And when you're
Absolutely.
looking at like the scope of the problems associated with these huge industries that are tied into global capitalism, like exploitation of labor, ecological exploitation,
Yeah.
or like worst practices, whatever it is, the climate crisis. I know with a lot of these larger issues, or even like the health implications, the
Yeah.
scope of it can kind of create inertia and turn people off, and just like it's the same thing with like procrastination, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like the
Oh,
scope of this big issue just makes people shut it out, and like they don't even make the minimal efforts. But like
Yeah.
it's not an all or nothing issue, any of these things. In fact,
Yeah.
these are all cumulative things, and it's much better to be imperfect and doing these things at a
Absolutely.
larger scale in our society than to have just a select few people who are like shining light examples, right? I mean, we should
Yeah.
all be doing the best we can, but many drips fill
Totally.
the cup, right?
Yeah.
So I was wondering if anyone comes across this, or just from my own personal growth, and for whoever I might come into contact with, because I love gleaning some knowledge from you. What are some things you could suggest to somebody who's looking to clean up their consumption practices, right?
In fashion or just like every day?
Well, in fashion first, I
In
guess
fashion.
that's yeah. But if you have anything wider
Um,
in general that you'd recommend, because it can be daunting, right?
yeah, yeah. Uh, uh, the first thing I'll say goes against, I mean, my business, but like wear what you have. And sometimes that means digging around your closet and pulling stuff out that you don't wear very often and trying to style it with other stuff, like having new style combinations. You know, you only need like 10, 15 pieces and you have so many. I mean, if they're smart, if you like choose wisely, you could have a capsule collection or a capsule wardrobe. Not that I'm a minimalist.
What does that mean, by the way?
Capsule, like a capsule wardrobe. It's just being really smart about what things you choose to be in your wardrobe and not having an excess of anything, you know, like one good coat that goes with everything. You look at the collection or your wardrobe as a whole and you make sure that all the pieces work together.
Interesting.
I'm not an expert in that because I love vintage and I make clothing for a living, so I have an excess of clothing. But um, I mean, my best advice to, you know, to be a little more environmentally friendly is to literally just use what you have and just be inventive. Think of new ways to style those pieces and put stuff together that you haven't worn together and give it new life. Um, I keep a lot of my stuff because I just know that stuff's going to cycle back, and it does constantly. I have this like out of the fashion cycle collection that sits in my basement, and every now and then I like go and shop my own old stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool again. Oh, I bought this in high school at Value Village and it's cool again. You know, there's old stuff that I've had forever, and it's gone in and out of style so many times, but I hang on to them and I like will cycle them back. Because also the other problem is like, yeah, you can consume stuff and people feel okay about donating clothing, but if it's not sold at the thrift store, it most likely will end up in landfill. And there's like I recently saw this statistic. It's like a pie chart of how much stuff when you donate, how much of it actually gets sold in the thrift store versus how much of it goes to landfill, which was like a huge piece of the pie. And then there's like a tiny sliver of the clothing that gets shipped overseas to other countries, usually third world countries, that have come out to say that having all that stuff shipped there is ruining their economy because it's ruining their garment industry for the people that make clothing there. It's awful. Yeah,
There's
so
always ripples out. They just
yeah,
always.
so it's like if you can keep your stuff, keep your stuff. The other thing is learn how to mend your clothes, learn how to sew, like learn how to do like really basic sewing things. Repairing clothing will never go out of style. And the other thing is you can make stuff fit differently or you can alter stuff. You know, you can have an old pair of pants or whatever and you can alter that, you can hem them, you can buy a lot more vintage stuff and you can make it fit yourself if you know how to just take in a couple seams. And there's so much online, there's so much on YouTube now. I wish I had this when I was growing up and learning how to sew. There's so much that you can learn on YouTube about how to make alterations and how to mend things. You know, I love, especially right now, but like these old wool sweaters, and I've learned how to darn them and like fix them, and it's kind of cool. I fixed a sweater that was like from the 1950s a few weeks ago that I sold to somebody, and it was like made in Scotland out of Shetland wool, and it's so old, and it just had it had one little hole, and people would throw that out, or you could just like mend it and give it another life for like however many other years. You know, it's like older than I am. That's crazy and so cool.
Amazing.
What else? And then thrift, yeah, thrift shop. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's the stuff already exists, so you're not contributing. Even if you're thrifting fast fashion, do not feel any guilt about that because it's already been produced and purchased by whoever. And if you're buying it, if you're buying some fast fashion brand at a thrift store, you're not contributing to the fast fashion industry whatsoever. You're actually keeping that stuff from going to landfill. So, yeah, those are my tips.
Those are good tips. Those are solid tips to be aware of, right?
Yeah.
Um, okay, so we've been talking. You know, it can bring up a lot of sorrow to talk about some of these kinds of things, right? They're not the brightest subjects,
Yeah.
like you know, the climate crisis or exploitation of labor. You know, the global south. Um, but I personally don't think it's all doom and gloom, right?
No,
And that's why I like to talk to people like you, right? It's because it makes me see the kind of issues that we're facing as a collective in a different light, and to see people who are out there doing things to try to challenge that paradigm, right?
yeah. Yeah.
And and like um, there are so many different. It really can, like we were saying before, it can be daunting to approach and tackle these issues.
Yeah.
But when you spend time with them and you look at them more closely, you can start to see there's a resilience that we have kind of as a collective
Yeah.
and nature in general, right? Like
Mhm.
I spent some time back and forth from a marine station in Central America, and the big discussion that we'd be talking about always was ocean acidification and coral bleaching. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of studies coming out now pointing at like an unprecedented ability for these corals to be adapting to warmer water temperatures, right?
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, and I'm getting at like, I mean, still we can't be complacent because
No.
the rate of warming is intense, right? And we've definitely got to curb our behaviors. It's not
Yeah.
just like business as usual, but
Yeah.
it's not just doom and gloom, right? We're
Mhm.
not completely done for. And I
No.
was just wondering what kinds of things in your industry or in general with regards to these, and they are holistic problems, right? Like climate justice, social justice, right?
Hmm.
Our physical health at the individual level,
Yeah.
interpersonal relationships, like the pandemic. I'm going to ramble for a minute. The pandemic.
I love your rambles.
Thank you.
You're
I
the best.
appreciate that. Yeah. Okay. The pandemic, for instance, for me, like it shone a light on how interwoven all of our triumphs and all of our pitfalls are, right?
Mm.
And so this global freakout, right? It heightened political tensions. It heightened people's physical health concerns,
Yeah.
and it also like something that I witnessed looking around uh, people who I know in my life. I would see it put such a strain on their like friendships and romantic relationships, all these
So much
kinds of things. Right?
division. Yeah.
And so, um, like seeing the holistic kind of interconnectedness. Sorry, one second. Of all of these issues, I was wondering, what are some of the things in your industry or in the wider sense of the state of where we're at as a species, or not just our species, as the planet? What are some of the things that make you optimistic, assuming you have some optimism? Right? I'm assuming you have
I'm definitely
optimism. I know you. I've met you before, right?
I'm optimistic for sure.
Yeah.
Well, no,
I know it's not an easy question, but
that's
surely you can think of some stuff that you know.
you know what I'm optimistic for? There are okay, so what I was gonna say, the beautiful thing about being in these scary times and and this like this what's the word? There's a word for it. I can't think because I'm
I'm a
like on the
thesaurus.
spot.
I'll help you.
But there's a new word for like this uh it's like an environmental anxiety.
Oh
Uh
yeah, I think they just call it like climate anxiety.
Climate anxiety.
Let's call it that for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
We'll check the book after.
yeah.
Yeah.
This whole climate anxiety I think has also created uh kind of a space for the really creative minds to come forward and think of solutions. Oh, eco anxiety. Yeah.
Eco
Eco
anxiety.
anxiety, climate.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, and close adjusted clothes trading parties. That's another good one to,
Cool.
have a little party with your friends. Everyone brings stuff that they don't wear anymore, and you do clothing swaps.
That's pretty cool.
I've done one once. It was actually really fun, and I definitely still have something that I wear that I got from one. It was very
Yo,
cool.
we should throw a jam and make that happen.
Can we do that?
Yeah, we're gonna talk. Okay. We'll talk
Okay.
after. Anyone listening to this now or in the future, stay tuned. We got a
Yeah.
wicked party coming your
Oh,
way.
that's such a good idea.
Yeah.
Dang. Okay. I
Okay.
gotta.
Anyways, to be continued. Yeah.
So, I think the beauty in all of this disastrous stuff happening is a lot of creative minds are coming forward, and we're trying to, think of alternatives. So, like hemp taking over as a textile, I know that is the goal of a handful of American companies, which is really amazing because they legalized hemp in the States. They weren't allowed to grow it forever. And now they are as of a few years ago. And the beautiful thing about America is there's a lot of opportunity and there's a lot of people there. I know that hemp guy. And I know there are companies that are really trying to push hemp as a textile forward, and they grew their first hemp for textiles crop this past year in California. Very exciting times. Like when I saw the photos, I got goosebumps. I like totally nerded out about it.
No,
And
I
they
want to just add like a little footnote to that.
yeah,
The first hemp grown for textiles following the prohibition of hemp in
yes,
North America, because prior to the early 1900s,
yes,
hemp was grown widely for textiles across the world.
yeah,
In North America,
yeah,
the Betsy Ross American flag, the first American flag, was on hemp textile.
yeah,
The Declaration of Independence was written
yeah,
on hemp fabric. In fact, the word canvas itself comes from the word
yeah,
cannabis. Yeah.
yes.
Sailcloth was made from hemp across
At
the
one
world
point,
because it is salt resistant.
yes, at one point it was even illegal to not grow hemp because they needed it towards the war effort to make all the rope for the war because
Because hemp rope
is the strongest
and
and it doesn't rot.
for the Navy also, it was resistant to salt water.
The salt water, yeah, extremely.
And
It's just like the best plant ever. We
it's
haven't even
amazing.
talked about the medicinal side of things, but
Yeah.
that's a whole other. That's a whole other
Yeah.
thing.
I mean, we've been going probably for an hour and a half right now, strong already. So,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. So, you know what? What you were getting at, though, about your optimism surrounding the opportunities of hemp, it reminds me of a conversation that you and I had last year when we were having lunch together.
yeah.
We kind of were talking through this same kind of thought process, and like something kind of was like, do you remember what I'm talking about?
What was it?
Okay,
We
so
had
you
a
and I
long.
were talking about how hemp, like at first the conversation was it's such a shame that hemp was prohibited for more or less a century because it could have been. I mean, looking at all the industrial, interpersonal, like all these uses, right?
Yeah,
Textiles, medicine, whatever, fuel. How having those industries stunted, it's such a shame. But then
yeah,
we kind of had this realization that had hemp not been prohibited at the rate of like industrialization in North America and the pattern and direction that it headed in, hemp could have easily gone the same way as industrial food crops like corn
Oh,
or
yeah,
soy
I
or
didn't,
even textile crops
or
like
even like
cotton.
cotton, you know, the like
And
conventional
so
way.
perhaps it's actually a blessing in disguise that hemp had been prohibited for the past 100 years. And now that we're amidst these kind of, we're on the precipice of, a great global shift, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
undeniable. And
yeah,
I mean, I don't mean to get too prophetic here, but perhaps there's a wider pattern at play that we're just not, we don't have the perspective, the
yeah,
vantage to be able to see. But I think the lesson that you and I pulled from that discussion, if I can speak on both of our
yeah,
behalfs, is that we have to
yeah.
trust. We have to trust
The timing,
in the timing. We have to trust in life. We have to trust
absolutely.
in the wider, like, capital N sense nature, how
Yeah,
things happen in the world.
so
So
right.
I
You're
mean,
so
that's what gives me optimism, is trusting that
it,
that there's
it's
a
true.
way, right?
It's true because I think, is it Patagonia's hemp documentary? A lot of the farmers and advocates, they are doing everything they can to protect the plant from going a very conventionally farmed way. They're trying to
Yeah,
make sure that the standards for growing hemp stays the way that they know is the most sustainable and efficient
yeah. Like,
together.
as the crop shouldn't be treated like a slave, and the
Exactly.
soil can't be treated like it's a slave either.
Exactly.
They're treated like inert, dumb, inanimate. Excuse me, inanimate things, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're absolutely not. They're both living, right?
Yeah. And maybe this is why it took us so long for hemp to come back, because there's so much that we know now that we didn't when, you know, the Industrial Revolution was happening and we're just using chemicals and, oh, look at these miracle chemicals and fertilizers and whatever. Uh, when we didn't have very much knowledge around the destruction of
And
everything.
now that we're starting to see the consequences of those seeds that were
We're
planted bearing
finally,
fruit and
yeah,
ripening, we're
yeah,
seeing that we've maybe made some wrong directions, right?
totally. And now that hemp is here, it's going to be in better hands because we know more. So I do trust that
Amazing.
time. I do. I really do. I like
Yeah.
that. I forgot that we had that conversation.
Yeah. I think it's an important conversation because, it can get a little dark when you spend enough time
Yeah.
uh, and when you pay attention to the scope
Oh, it's so
of
easy to just lose hope.
yeah,
But there are so many amazing people, smaller designers and companies that are doing very innovative things using natural
absolutely.
things like hemp. And the other thing, the other one that I was going to mention is the power of fungus and mushrooms. For example, they've created a mushroom leather, which is finally now, I think they're really like on their way to produce it in larger quantities. When I first found this company, it's called Myco Works, I believe.
I think I've seen them as well. Yeah,
And then there's another one called Reishi. I don't know if they're just rebranded, same guys or not, but they're making really beautiful leather alternatives that are not synthetic. It's growing mycelium in sheets and creating whatever texture you want. They can basically grow it into whatever texture you want. So it can have like a leather texture. It can have like cracks. It can have like, it can look like elephant skin or crocodile or whatever you want. Anything exotic or anything you want, super smooth. And it's just mycelium, and they can color treat it. They can do all kinds of things. It's stronger than real leather, thousands of times cleaner than real leather, and not resource intensive. It doesn't have to, it doesn't have to eat. You don't have to use water. It's just
and it
like,
also supports regeneration of soil.
exactly. And it's also waterproof. Did I say it's waterproof? Like truly waterproof. It's way more durable than the real thing. And it's companies like that that give me hope. And we're just using really cool things that have existed on this planet for millions of years
Far longer than we have.
or longer.
Mycelium,
Like,
yeah.
who knows? I think actually fungus is
It's
one
the
of the first.
oldest
It's the
of the
oldest
oldest
thing.
life forms. Yeah,
This entire plant would not exist without it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
very.
I'll have to consult a textbook on that one, but I think you're right. I don't know if
It is.
prokaryotes or eukaryotes are older than fungi. Well, do we have a
It's
biologist around
one.
here? Where's
I
Anthony?
know. Can somebody
Yeah,
fact check?
yeah. I'll
Uh,
get Anthony to tell us that one. But I think you're right. I know that fungus is far older than plant life and animal
yeah,
life.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's very cool. So yeah, I'm a big advocate for fungus and hemp. I feel like those two together can change the world in many, many ways. Um,
amazing.
and yeah, so I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful because those two things exist on this planet. And then there are creative minds that can take it and turn it into something beautiful and, you know, clean this place up.
Okay, Aneta. So before we wrap, firstly, I just wanted to say thank you for sharing
Thank
all of
you.
this.
This is so
Amazing.
fun.
I
I love
love learning. Um,
that.
and also thank you for all the support you've given to Together Hemp, all of like the cool recipes. I love
Hey,
the millet burgers and always inspired because in addition to a fashion designer, Annette is also an amazing foodie, amazing plant-based chef as well, forager. Um, and so people can follow you, immortelle.label, and also your personal account as well. You have lots of I love the kind of stuff I learn always from not just from talking to you in person, but your presence online. Like because you're always pointing out different you know social issues, different uses for plants,
yeah.
environmental concerns, environmental facts. I learn a lot, so people can check out and just from what you're cooking. I love to see what you're
Yeah.
cooking, and
Yeah, I
so
need to
people
get back
can
on
follow
it.
you. You got to get back on it.
Yeah, I need to post more about my food and stuff.
Here, oh, scientists recently found a billion-year-old fungus in Canada.
There you
Amazing,
go. Thank you, Cloves,
amazing.
fact checker. Love that gal.
So, yeah, follow along. They can follow you at immortelle.label, right?
Yep, thank you.
And buy some slow fashion, support local, support independent designers, craftsmanships, local businesses. And is there anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
I don't know. I think I'm good. I feel like I said so
Yeah,
much tonight.
I think we
Yeah.
just figured everything out.
Yeah, we just like figured out the whole world. So if you want to know
Yeah,
everything about the world, just come watch this IG live.
yeah, exactly. All right, thank you. Until next time.
All right. Thank you. We're in it
Backwards. I'll have
together.
to learn how to write backwards for this. Yeah. Okay.
Just like make the ink bleed through the paper. Just go over it and then do it backwards.
This is why I talk to you. Yo, I can just trace it on the back. Okay.
There you go.
All right. Peace out. Thank you.
Peace. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.